Hello and welcome back to the Making the Brand podcast. We're officially live, which is new, but happy to be here, happy to do this. And today I'm talking to the mastermind behind my favorite account on Twitter. And it's not a Fortune 500 company. It's not a sassy fast food brand or a candy bar. It's actually the Oviedo Mall. And I'm excited to tell you more about it, or better yet, to invite today's guest, Josh Gunderson, who is at the mall right now in true fashion. How are you, Josh?
I'm doing good. Living the dream.
Awesome. Happy to have you here today. So let's get nostalgic for a second before we really get into this conversation. I want to transport back to what I think of as like the glory days of my time at the mall was the late 90s, early 2000s. So let's flash back to teenage Josh. You're at the mall with your friends. What store are you spending the most time in?
Oh boy, it depends on which mall, because we had, for some reason that I still to this day can't explain, we had two malls in our area that were within a mile of each other, and one was like the mall, but it had a movie theater, and the other one was like the mall. So it's the North Shore Mall and the Liberty Tree Mall in Danvers, Massachusetts, for anyone paying attention. But probably like Sam Goody was my go-to. Got to pick up those CDs, my prepaid minutes for my Virgin Mobile cell phone.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think Sam Goody was where it was all at.
Good choice. Surprisingly, my mall didn't have a Sam Goody. We had it's what FYE used to be. It's called Specs.
Wow.
Yeah, Specs back in the day. But yeah, I would do the same ritual. I would probably spend more time though at Walden Books. I don't know if that makes me a geek, but I was
not at all
over the magazines more so than the books.
Oh yeah, I mean I'm down at our bookstore at least once a day, every day that I'm here, usually up to no good. So
yeah. And I saw on Twitter someone was a fan of the bookstore at the Oviedo Mall. It's like a kind of offshoot of Barnes and Noble, right?
So it's still owned by Barnes and Noble. So it's we are very proud to be home of the only B. Dalton bookseller in the country and I think the world. And it was a change that actually happened at the beginning of this year. So it's a brand that Barnes and Noble had purchased and sort of scooted them all away. And then for whatever reason, the decision was, let's be nostalgic and bring it back. And Oviedo, Florida was the obvious choice.
Too funny. Yeah, I'd never heard of that. But yeah, someone on Twitter chimed in and was like, oh my gosh, this mall has that. So cool. Yeah. Awesome. So yes, you do social for the Oviedo Mall, which, as I mentioned, I think is the most underrated brand on Twitter. I think you're just hysterical. And we're going to get into it here and all of that and hear kind of the background. But I may be biased, though, loving the Oviedo Mall because I've actually been there. I've had experiences there because it's local to the University of Central Florida, which is where I went. Go Knights. And yeah, I don't know if I have fond memories of the Oviedo Mall, but I think it helped me in a pinch, for a night out. If I needed something, it was a good option to have.
That's fair. I mean, it's good. It's worth coming back. Things have changed probably significantly since the last time you were here.
Yeah, so. It's been at least 10 years. So yeah, I'm sure it's on the up and up, especially with you at the wheel, doing all the cool things. So
I mean, yeah, it's hard work carrying this whole mall on my back, but I somehow survive.
So for those of us who haven't been to the Oviedo Mall, describe it for us. I mean, like you said, it's maybe been, it's had some updates. Like, what's the state of the Oviedo Mall right now?
We shockingly got through the hurricane with no issues at all.
Yeah.
I love this mall because of just how unique it is. A YouTuber dubbed us the strangest mall in Florida, and of course I'm sitting here like, I will not rest until we are the strangest mall in the world. So let's get on top of that, because we're home to about, I would venture to guess, about 75% of our retails or our shops in here are all small businesses. So they're local mom and pop places that you're not going to find anywhere else. And I think that's what's really, really cool. We've got a really amazing community here. I consider them all family, for better or for worse.
Yeah.
And it's really unique in that we do have like national brands, Bath and Body Works, Regal Cinema, um, GameStops, Dillard's, stuff like that. So we've still got those bigger name stuff, but we're doing what a lot of malls are at least hopefully attempting to do, which is sort of making that pivot to an entertainment destination, a dining destination, and maybe a little bit of shopping peppered in, because we do have a lot of entertainment offerings here that again you're not really going to find anywhere else, which is just so fun and cool. And we've even in the year and a half that I've now been here, so much change has come and so much big change is coming that we can't quite talk about yet,
Okay.
but so many cool things are on the way. And I mean, it's public knowledge that we're going to be getting apartments bookending us very soon.
Oh,
And with that, it's going to be a big game changer for who we are, and I think that's really exciting. And I love it. I think it's worth checking out. You're gonna find something that you enjoy doing here, whether you like it or not. So
yeah. And that'll be really great. I mean, considering it is in a college town, you might get some college students who want to live there, live near the mall, especially if you're turning it
Mhm.
into more of an entertainment type of destination. Uh, I also love that you brought up that the YouTuber called you the strangest mall in Florida, because that's one of the first things you see when you go when you go on your Twitter account. Your header banner in big letters, if you haven't been, says the strangest mall in Florida from some guy with a YouTube channel. I'm just like,
Yep.
I'm gonna love this account.
Yeah, so that's actually I had the question for you. How did you find us? I wonder how everyone finds us, but
I wish I knew. I don't know if it was maybe just being so kind of connected with UCF, and I maybe saw someone tag or something, or maybe, I've had my Twitter for such a long time. Maybe I was following you then, and just you got my attention again. But like I said, I mean, seeing even just your Twitter banner and your bio, I mean, it's just witty from top to bottom. And I'm just like, this is a brand that I have to follow. So speaking of that, I want to know how you ended up in this position with the password to the Oviedo Mall account.
I mean I always tell everybody that my entire life is just a weird series of very happy accidents, and I had come to the mall for a meeting about something completely different, and come to find out they needed a new marketing and events coordinator, and I was like, oh, I'm unemployed due to pandemic, I would love this.
Hmm.
So I applied, and next thing I knew, I have not only the passwords to the mall, but I have keys to the mall, which every day I'm like, this is just odd, this is not normal.
Yeah, it's like
So
those nightmares you have when you're just in a mall by yourself and it's haunted at night.
I mean,
So
that was my reality last week when we were here on
yeah.
Thursday doing an inspection, and then, like I said earlier, today we got to go play in the old Sears building and take a look at what was going on in there after the hurricane. And I took a lot of video because I'm 5, but it was very. I was like monsters everywhere. I was like,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna film a Ghost Hunters episode right now. This is a blast. Our maintenance
Yeah.
guys are doing actual work, and I'm like, I don't need to be here, but content for something
Exactly.
later. I'm
Yes.
sure I'll figure out something to do with this.
Always be contenting, right? Yeah.
Yes, that's the goal.
And I'm sure every day is different, with so many different brands, so many different things going on. And I love that there's small businesses in the mall too, which must be rewarding. So what's that like going to work every day and like not knowing, what you're getting into, who you want to highlight today, what events are going on, what's trendy, like,
Yeah,
you know?
that I mean, that's what's kind of a blast about it, and that's why I love when I first came here, I was like, "This is fun," because I'm not marketing the same product over and over and trying to find a new way to make this one thing look really good. It's
Mhm.
I can pick and choose, like, who we're featuring on, Facebook, who we're posting about, who we're highlighting, and we have such a great relationship that, there are days I'll have a completely random idea and go running into the store and be like, "Don't mind me," and then go sprinting back out again.
Yeah.
And it's so much fun. Like I said, we're such a family here that I have the ability to do that. Or even I will go to a store and be like, "Hey, I've got a really crazy idea about a promotion you can do, or this," and they're like, "Well, we'll give it a go. You're a little
Yeah.
bit scary, but okay."
Do you have at least
And
like a badge or a walkie-talkie or something so people, even
no,
customers,
I
like
mean, the customers. I mean, we're Oviedo's such a small community that we see a lot of the same people. We've got our mall walkers that we see every single day, and they're the sweetest. And we've everyone knows who I am. So I'm usually actually usually dressed in flannel, which is how I've become known around here. So
Okay. Very
I'm
festive.
people know who I am. Other than that, I try to stay behind the scenes. Even when like some people reach out on Twitter sometimes, they're like, "Who runs this account?" And I'm like, "You will never know. I don't need that."
They
Like,
know now.
I'm trying to live a normal life. Can you all just leave me alone? No pictures.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that now I have to ask, do you have a discount at every store in the mall? Then how does that work?
No.
Oh.
I mean, some places we do, but there are a lot of small businesses and businesses I want to support. So I'm like, will you just please take my money,
Yeah.
please?
Oh,
I mean, I've got the B Dalton membership, so I get 10% off.
there you go.
Um, and then like I go to the movies all the time. I'm a Regal Crown Club member, and they're pushing me to get the Regal Unlimited, and I'm like, all right, I'll do it, whatever you want.
You're just single-handedly keeping all the businesses, going.
That's what I do. I rotate throughout the
More
food
ways than
court
one.
every week who I'm having lunch with. So
Uh-huh. That's awesome. Yeah, no day is the same. So,
nope.
okay, so it's day 1. Imagine it's day 1 on the account. Take us back to that day. What was the state of Oviedo Mall's marketing when you started, and what was your plan to really transform it?
Oh boy.
What did you
So
inherit?
I nothing too bad. It's I mean, what I discovered very early on is I sat down, I looked at what our account, because our social media was actually being run by a third party.
Mhm.
They did 2 posts a week for us. They would boost some posts, stuff like that. They helped, like, did our newsletter and everything. But it was a company out of Texas that had never been to the mall before. So they're posting and saying things and having no idea what this actual community is like.
Yeah.
And then it was all just very generic stuff. And I went and looked at, like, what are all other malls posting about? What are the big boys posting about? What are the medium boys posting it about? And it's all so boring. It's like, oh, go get a pretzel and sale on candles. And my question was, like, how do we make this a little bit more interesting, a little bit more fun? And I'm a huge fan of like, when because I didn't go to school for marketing. It's one of those things I just kind of accidentally fell into.
Mhm.
And I look at, I take my lessons from, like, all the transcenders out there, the Steve Jobs, even, as much I hate to say it right now, Tesla and Elon Musk, and how they operate and change the game. And I love to just be disruptive. I love to be like playing like a game of tag with a 6-year-old, and you get them and they're it, and they're like, oh no, the rules have changed. I love to be that guy where I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna, like, there's this rule book that's adorable. I'm just gonna write my own, and y'all are gonna fall in line.
Mhm.
And I sat and thought, how can I do that? And with Facebook and Instagram, a lot of our community follows that, and we have a very interesting community that I've still haven't quite found the pulse of yet.
Mhm.
So what I get away with on Twitter, I can't really get away with there. But
Yeah.
I sneak a little bit of snark in just to see how it plays. And then
Mhm.
for our Twitter, I was like, this is boring. Like, I'm not gonna sit in like, oh, candle sale,
Yeah.
food sale. And I looked at some of my favorite Twitter accounts, which are a lot of those, like, Jason Ginsburg's fake theme park, um, all of those fake accounts. I was like, what if we just operated like one of those parody accounts, but we're very real?
Yeah.
How would that go? And it started, and I actually at one point very early on tweeted that, just like, oh, our Twitter strategy is tweet like nobody's watching, because they're not. And then all of a sudden they were, and I was like, oh no, stop that, please stop. I can't maintain this.
Yeah.
And it just kind of it snowballed from there. And so I'm still figuring things out in terms of our audience, because it's very, at least for like traditional like Facebook and Instagram and stuff.
Mhm.
But Twitter, I think, because we're so close to Orlando, and I've always had a pulse on the theme park community and what's going on, and like what Discord and what they're angry about this week, and how can I kind of poke that bear a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's always been really fun. And my philosophy is still the same. I tweet like no one's watching. Like, if it just pops into my head, I'm like, we'll see what happens, and I walk away and forget about it. So
Yeah. Well, good for you for transforming it, because I can't think of, like, I mean, the mall is a playground, really. I mean, there's
Mm-hmm.
just so much potential there. Like you mentioned, so many different brands. There's just so much creativity and so many inventive things that you could do that are way cooler than just the candle sale, like you mentioned, or 20% off at Bed Bath and Beyond, which is always the case. But I think you brought up something that I relate to because looking at agency life versus working in-house for a brand. Right after graduating from UCF, I interned for an agency, and I liked the idea of having one brand and working for it and close to it and knowing the people. I remember I was given like assignments to write press releases for a hotel that I'd never been to about a new hire that I'd never even met. I'm like, how am I supposed to do this if I'm not there? So I think that can happen sometimes, or you can feel that disconnect if a third party is running your account. You don't get that same like magic. They're not able to capture it like you have. So
Yeah, and it's again, it's just I wake up every day and I'm like, this is a weird job, but I love it because because our office is run by two people. We all wear very many hats. 'Cause, like my official title is marketing and events. But last
okay.
week it was hurricane wrangler, and just and that's what makes it fun, and I love that. People all the time are like, are you going to try to find something else? I'm like, but I'm happy. I'm
Yeah.
perfectly happy, and it's something different every day. Like, I love having a job where I can't predict what's going to happen.
Mhm.
And like, if you had told me this morning when I woke up that I was going to be inside an abandoned Sears, I'd have been like, that's adorable.
Yeah. And it makes for a good story. So that's awesome.
Oh, of course, yeah. Which, as we all know from our Twitter, it was until recently possessed by a demon, and we're still trying to figure that out. So,
Of course. Stay
yeah.
tuned. Subscribe for all the tweets and future updates.
Yeah.
So, okay, you mentioned that, you kind of just let ideas fly off the cuff. If something's in your head, you tweet it. So, how would you describe the voice of the Oviedo Mall account? And to a certain extent, do you feel like it's your own voice in a way?
Mostly because I forget which account I'm logged into at any given point in time. Sometimes it just is my voice, and I don't realize it until it's way too late. Um, It's so our account, for those unfamiliar, is we here at Oviedo Mall have some very well-intentioned interns that wreak havoc day to day, and so it's really just a lot of their enjoyable exploits, and torturing Judy, who is our director of operations. Who I had to explain to somebody is like, no, she's real. She's right there. I'm looking at, like, she exists. I promise.
Yeah.
But it's fun. It's just that sort of putting things out there. I love, again, like, I love poking the big brands that we have near us. Getting to poke fun at like Halloween Horror Nights, Hallow Scream, Universal, Disney. Even we play around with Cinnabon quite a bit.
Yes.
We had one. There was one night where there was just a big long exchange between a bunch of brands. Fireball Whiskey got involved. It was a very weird evening for all of us.
Yeah.
But I mean, especially for our Twitter, it's just the voice of sort of just chaotic fun, and it's been fun because it gets the word of the mall out there in the weirdest way possible, and it gets people talking about us.
Yeah.
Um, and it's a lot of times it's just us getting ahead of a joke that somebody else is already going to make about us, because there's always a joke of, oh, malls are dead, especially Oviedo Mall. We've had roof problems since the place opened, so there's roof leaks, which we're working on. But there was a big joke during the hurricane of like, oh, does Oviedo Mall have enough buckets? And I just replied back, no, we don't. Please send some.
Yeah.
And it's just like, people are going to make the joke. We might as well get there first and kind of
Mhm.
own that. And I'll sometimes go through and find people that maybe didn't tag us in something but mention us and had something snarky to say, and I'm like, oh, I'll top that. Let's go. Like,
Yeah.
you can't hurt me more than I hurt myself. So,
Exactly. Well, now that you mention it, I think you're ringing a bell. It's all coming back to me. I think that is how I found you on Twitter. I think I saw you chime in some kind of banter out there. I don't know if it was like replying to a Dionne Warwick tweet or something, but I think I saw you like out there with the big dogs, like, chiming in with funny things. And I'm like, Oviedo Mall, like, let me
oh
see what
yeah,
they're up to. It's been a
no,
while. That sounds
No one
right.
is safe from us at all.
Yeah.
If something pops up in my feed and I'm like, oh, okay. And people are like, what is this random mall doing here? I'm like,
Yeah.
it's fine. Don't
We
mind
gotta get
us.
verified. That's the next step.
I sent in the request to be verified, and Twitter just replied with LOL. So I don't see that happening anytime soon.
Well, I
Like,
hope, I mean, it's a modest little podcast I have here, but I hope getting you out there and singing your praises as much as I personally can, I think it's going to happen.
well,
Um,
Adweek followed us, and that was like a stupid
oh,
fangirl moment for me. I was like, oh god, oh god, what do I do?
yeah.
This is
Recently?
too much attention.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was after you tweeted about the interview, and I was like, oh,
Oh,
okay,
that
here we
makes me
go.
happy. We have to put you guys on the map. Like, really, you deserve it. I think you're doing awesome things, and more people should be talking about your humor and just your approach to social. I think it's so refreshing. And I'm glad you clarified that Judy is real as well as the interns, because I didn't know if that was just a running joke about interns. I was like, no,
I
but
will
they're
break.
real.
I'll break your heart.
Okay.
Well, actually, no, I'm going to test your 90s nostalgia trivia right now.
Oh boy.
So our interns' names are Marco, Cassie, Rachel, and Tobias.
Actually?
Well, they're better known as the Animorphs.
Okay. Oh my gosh, and there was an Animorphs meme going around very
Yep.
recently. So
So
they're
I
not
hate to break
real.
your heart. They're all voices in my head.
Okay,
So because
gotcha. But Judy is very real.
Judy's very real, yeah. So
Okay.
when I started, I was actually in the middle of rereading the series
Mhm.
from way back when. It's available as a PDF. It's getting re-released as a graphic novel.
Mhm.
Everyone go buy it because it's brilliant. And when I was like, okay, what is the voice of our Twitter? I was like, what if we just had like crazy interns running around? All right, cool. What am I going to name them? And these are just the characters that were on my brain. And so all of their personalities that you see on Twitter are
Mhm.
just the characters from the book. So Rachel's like the gung
Oh
ho
my
Xena warrior
goodness.
princess one. Marco's the smart aleck.
Yeah.
Cassie's the bleeding heart. And Tobias is technically a hawk. So there's that.
Okay. I did not pick up on that. I wasn't really into, like, I don't know, it's a little sci-fi-ish for me back then, but I love that. I love that you took that. I mean, it's very
Yeah.
believable though that you would have interns. I think we could get you some help if you wanted it, with UCF being right down the road.
I
Sounds like
would
an awesome
love real
opportunity.
interns because I need someone to explain TikTok to me.
Yes, let's get you some interns. I'm gonna see who I can call if I know anyone at UCF still, because I think that would be just such a fun internship, working for you and being at the mall every day. I mean, that sounds like a blast. So
It's a good time.
yeah. So yeah, that does kind of explain that. I mean, a lot of the voice and things are just these ideas that pop in your head, and you just run with it. But I know you have a background in comedy. So does that come into play? Did you study like, how does, or you just love being
I
funny?
I mean it's
About
I
that?
whenever I like go through my resume with people, they're like, "Is half of this made up? What is your life?" And it's really not. I'm not good at sitting still, so I've done everything from bartending to teaching to directing shows. You name it, I have probably done it. I was a supervisor at an aquarium at one point. Like, I don't mess around. Like,
Yeah.
and I mean, I'm a millennial, therefore all of my humor is disgustingly dark because that's how we deal with our entire lives.
Mhm.
Um, but like I went to school. I actually went to school for creative writing and theater,
Mhm.
and did that. And I got into doing a little bit of stand up here and there. Did some a lot of charity stand up stuff. So nothing big league, because I don't think I'm that funny. So
I beg to
um,
differ.
and then I've kind of just bounced around all over the place, and just again, I think I'm fortunate to have ended up here. Actually, I was on the world's shortest cruise this past weekend that got kind of messed up because of the hurricane.
Uh,
And my friend who also works in marketing, we were both on the ship together. And we are just kind of chatting. She's like, "So what is your plan long term? Like, what do you want to do?" And like, moving on. Of course, there's like we'd love to all be making more money and stuff like that. And I'm like, I love work-life balance, so I'm all
Mhm.
about that. Um, and I just want to keep having fun. And if something stops being fun, then I'll find the next fun thing. But I just, if making people laugh, I think also feels really good. And knowing that there's people out there that turn to a random mall Twitter to
Yes,
for
people
some
like me.
smiles. Yeah. I'll take it. That makes me feel like I'm doing something good for the world.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you've been having fun. What are some of your favorite tweets or campaigns or moments? Especially again, for people who haven't been following you this whole time, get them up to speed on some of the cool projects and tweets that have taken off or things that you've done so far.
So the first tweet that put us on the map it was one of those, just like it went into my head. I tweeted it. I put my phone down, didn't think twice about it. Next thing I know, my phone is just going insane. I'm like, what have I done? It was when things were like, you were starting to come back from the pandemic, and Disney announced that they were not reopening the NBA experience in Disney Springs, which had just opened. Like, it was a
Mm.
whole big thing that it replaced Disney Quest, and they're doing this. And I just tweeted out, look at us outlasting the NBA experience. Like, period, send tweet, forget about it.
Yeah.
And next thing I know, it's everywhere. And I was like, oh, okay. And like, our follower count increased. I'm like, I'm not gonna be able to recreate this. I don't know what I just like, oops, because I think Twitter especially is just right place, right time.
Right.
There's no calculating what's gonna play and when on Twitter. Um, and then it's just, of course, the creation of the interns and just kind of running jokes with them. So last year, they had found a Ouija board in the old Victoria's Secret and then played with it, and that is what unleashed the demon upon them all. And we've had it trapped in
Mm.
Sears for the past year, up until recently when Rachel decided to let him loose.
Of course.
So it's just like kind of those weird running through lines that we'll bring back every once in a while. There's Marco, who apparently never likes to wear pants, so that'll show up. Because I've never tried to sell on Twitter, and I
Hmm.
think that is what's made it so much fun, because we've had people show up to the mall. First up, they'll show up to the office and be like, "Oh, we kind of want to meet the interns from Twitter," and I'm like, "Oh, they're unavailable right now.
Yeah.
It's their day off."
Hmm.
Um, and I think that it's gotten attention better than any marketing campaign we ever could have thought of, because we had a couple that came from England. They were in Orlando for their vacation, and they made a point to come to Oviedo Mall
Because
because
of
they
your
they
Twitter.
had seen it on Twitter.
That's
And I'm like,
amazing.
I'm like, cool, I will take that. And so just the amount of people, and I think not selling them all on Twitter has helped sell it better than we ever could have, because I'll still sneak things in there. Like
Mhm.
we actually campaigned very hard to get the Spirit Halloween movie to come play here. We were not on the list, and
Mhm.
I was bullying Regal and Spirit Halloween on Twitter. We behind the scenes were working with Regal, and she was calling almost every day to get us on it. And then they finally were like, just please take the movie and leave us alone. And it was so funny. They released the graphic of like, here's where the movie's playing: Los Angeles, New York, Boston, Miami, Jacksonville, Oviedo. And I was like,
You did
yes, this
it.
is so weird and funny. And so we made a big deal out of that. We actually last night we did a screening. We invited a bunch of local like Halloween Horror Nights influencers and stuff to just come watch the movie and enjoy. Starting tomorrow, we have the movie Trick or Treat playing, and we've been kind of sneaking that out there because it's never been played in theaters before, and we have
Mhm.
it playing here. And so just sneaking weird stuff in there like that and being like, okay, I'm kind of trying to sell you something, but I'd rather you just talk about us, and people they come and they're like, oh, the mall actually has a bunch of really cool stuff. So
Yeah. That's
it's
how it
being sneaky
works.
like that is great.
Right? Yeah, and I'm curious if you've had any resistance or pushback. I mean, that NBA joke and, making fun saying that Oviedo Mall has lasted longer than that. I mean, that's kind of, a little bit of a dig at the mall, and also, to not be so salesy and to not sell. It's almost like counterintuitive to what your boss would want you to do. It's like, don't say anything bad about the mall, and we got to push these sales. So what has that been like as far as trying to shift that mindset perhaps internally, or how you've communicated
I
that this is the direction you should go
thankfully, like I said, so we do have corporate overlords,
in?
because they own 4 malls around the country, but they're based in California. So it's just myself and Judy, who's the director of operations. She loves it,
Awesome.
and
We love Judy.
I just kind of rely on the fact that I don't think our corporate knows that we have a Twitter account. um but we also, like, I know, like, they like especially since there's so much other stuff that I'm responsible for, as long as like that stuff is happening,
Mhm.
the events and stuff, and of course generating revenue in those ways, if that is happening, no reason to pay attention to anything else. So I also, that's another reason why I absolutely love this job, is I don't have the oversight. There's no one that I have to go like, oh, I'm not sure if this is gonna play, and have to go through months of like legal batting it around. Just be like,
Mhm.
okay, cool, we missed the meme. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
So I mean, I
Like,
definitely stop in my head and think things through. There's a bunch of different like pop culture things or meme things that I'm like, I'm not touching this one.
yeah.
But in terms of just making fun of them all, I think there's a fine line, and I always, because I've got friends like, oh, I want to start a sassy Twitter, and I'm like, there's a very fine line between sassy and mean, so you need to be careful about that.
That is true.
And thankfully, and especially, I don't think people really like, malls are on Twitter, but they don't play well, because again, they're, hey, candles. I don't know why I'm fixated on candles today, but that's that's where I'm at. Because even like, I look at, I go and look at like, Mall of America, massive following, very low engagement,
Hmm.
and it's, uh, you know, they're again like, oh, here's this event that we're doing, and it's salesy. And
Yeah.
I get it. It's like, Twitter's a very hard animal. We even have tenants here that are like, oh, we want to get into Twitter. I'm like, don't, please don't go down that hole for yourselves,
Yeah.
because it's frustrating. It's difficult to get right. Even I don't get it right sometimes. And it's a whole different ball game. Stick to the sort of more traditional stuff, please, just to
Yeah.
save the headache. So I think it's a fine line, in like having, I have conversations with myself before I tweet. I'm like, is this a good idea? Because I did one, Halloween Horror Nights announced the Bugs Eaten Alive house. And of course, I was like, oh, I got to jump on this. So I tweeted out, oh, Halloween Horror Nights has a house filled with bugs, and it's fun and spooky. But if we're full of bugs, it's disgusting and a health hazard. I sat on that one for about an hour. I was like, and I was
Yeah,
like, you
yeah,
know what?
yeah.
Forget it. I'm gonna do it. And then Halloween Horror Nights responded back, and I was like, I will take that, because they came back
Yeah.
with, I think it was like, oh, this is my kind of mall. Millennia would never. And I was like,
That's right.
oh boy, that was okay. We're all gonna take digs, because
Yeah.
Mall of Millennia is like they're like our big fancy local mall, Apple
Yes.
Store, and stores that I can't even afford to look at or walk past.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
so it's fun, and thankfully, I think a lot of the brand account managers around this area, especially in the theme parks, all have such a fantastic sense of humor,
Yeah.
um, that they're all just really fun to play with. So
Yeah.
that's my tangent about that.
No, so it's so fun. Yeah, I never realized, that the proximity and kind of the geography of being so close to, the mecca of theme parks would play out that way. I guess that is helpful. It's really cool. So, you've had these people tell you they are visiting the mall just because of Twitter and because of who you are online, and you've had these stories and things, but have you found that you've been able to measure the impact of your work to, like, it can be so hard to trace a tweet back to a sale at Dillard's, like,
Yeah.
how do you measure and prove that your efforts are working, and what advice would you give to people in this field who may struggle with those conversations of proving their value and demonstrating their work?
It's difficult, because like, I look at our metrics, I look at our engagement, I see those numbers, they mean zilch to me. But a lot of it's conversations that I have with our tenants, and a lot of them will say, oh, somebody said that they saw us on social media. And it was, I think, eliminating that third party was a big help, because the voice became more of our own. It became more in tune. They were using pictures that were 3 years old that featured stores that don't exist here anymore.
Oh, yeah.
Uh,
Mhm.
so bringing it all, and really just getting it out there. And I don't look at engagement that much in terms of like, oh, I put this out there and it only got 5 likes, but putting out there, oh, we've got trick or treat, we've got Spirit Halloween. I just had one of the stores as I was walking through to come back to the office. They said, oh, we had somebody in here last night that was so excited to go see Spirit Halloween. They saw it on our Facebook and they're like, we have to go see this. And I was like, there it is right there. So it's
Right.
looking and seeing just what people are talking about. And this community as a whole, Oviedo is very odd. But we see a lot of the same people over and over again at our events that we hold, that the mall puts on. Like we do a really fun event called Sip and Shop, where you can come tour around the mall, get a glass of wine, get something to eat, do some shopping.
Yeah.
We just did, you would have loved it. We just did a 90s themed one, and we encouraged people to come dress up. We were giving away slap bracelets, Tamagotchis. It was,
Oh
we
man.
had the laser photo shoot background from old school photos.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and we see a lot of those people over and over again. And we talk to them like, how did you hear about the event? How did you hear about this? A lot of it's social media, our newsletter. We've gotten a better, I've worked harder to develop a better relationship with our local press, and we're actually sending out press releases about what's going on here. Um, we've actually done a lot of really great work with the influencer community. I know a lot of them just through going to Halloween Horror Nights and my time there as a very micro influencer. And so it's kind of leveraging those relationships and getting them out here and saying like, here's what the cool stuff at the mall, and them going, we didn't know this was here. We're going to let our followers know about this. And
Yeah.
I think it's more about relationships than it is engagement. And especially since I'm not traditional in the way I do marketing things, it's frustrating I've had 2 different jobs where it didn't work out between us because they were like, this isn't what you're supposed to do. And I'm like, there's no
Mhm.
rules, but okay.
Yeah.
Um,
We've all had
and
a boss like that. Yes.
Yeah. And so I think we've seen an increase in foot traffic since I've taken over. We've seen our like numbers across the board for stores going up. Right now, we're really working to support Regal and getting more butts and seats out here.
Mhm.
But we are seeing that uptick in traffic, and they're all great partners to work with. So it's been a lot of fun. I think we're seeing it in just the weird ways, but it's so hard to measure unless
Yeah.
you're offering some sort of bounce back where you're tweeting out a coupon for people to come in and use. I don't think you're ever really going to see it. It's just a lot of trust and knowing that things are progressing well. And I think it's just the conversations that people are having. If you can see that people are talking about you, even when you're not actively engaging with them, I think that really shows that you're hitting the marks. And I don't think there's any real good way of knowing short of going absolutely viral and people streaming in to meet non-existent interns.
Yeah. Yes. Well, I mean, I think that's a great reminder. And then, I mean, at the end of the day, there's chatter and you're hearing these things and you can kind of feel your impact. You may not be able to tie it directly to this piece of revenue, but maybe more so with the events, maybe,
Mhm.
like ticket sales and things, but you know,
Yeah, we've definitely seen, and and again, the great thing about having these mom and pops is we tell them like, we're going to hold this event, we're going to bring all these people in for the event, we've led the horse to the water,
yeah.
make them drink. Like we do, because we do like sip and shops. We're about to do our 4th one this year, which is now Sip or Treat, so it's an adult trick-or-treating event with
Oh
booze.
yeah.
um we once a month we host kids activities. We do scavenger hunts around the malls for kids that different stores host. And we're like, yeah, we love to have the activity for kids. It's not about the kids. We've got them and their parents in the mall. Convince them to buy something, offer them a bounce back, a limited time coupon, a coupon that's just good for while they're here, and we help them with
Brilliant.
that. And again, that's why this is so fun, because I don't need to sell the mall. The mall is it's just the building. I need to sell everybody that's inside of it. And I
Mhm.
love being able to work with them and again come to them with these crazy ideas. Even like actually I think he's behind me. Yep, Lil Boo back there. So
Uh-huh.
we have a wine and paint shop called Calliope Street.
Yeah.
And I went to them and I said, hey, this little pumpkin at Halloween Horror Nights has made a big splash. People like are obsessed with him. It'd be really fun to do a painting of him. And we actually found the artist Emery that carved the original Little Boo pumpkin. We had her and a bunch of other people come in. We did a wine and paint night with them, and boom, now he's an option for people to come in and paint, and they were a bit skeptical about it, and I was like, I trust me, this is either going to be brilliant or fall flat. We'll see which one happens. But it's those little things. It's like it's something to try, and if it doesn't work, okay, we tried, and we'll learn from our mistakes, and we'll move on and try again. And it's just so much fun. It's so much fun.
It
I
has
love
like
being able to
local
crazy
flair
ideas
too. Like you've kind of made it local to the community. I think maybe you should do another one of those, but you come and you paint Nitro, the UCF
we
mascot.
actually
Do that.
we did we partnered with Seminole County Tourism, and they brought 2 UCF athletes in here to do a sort of competition YouTube series game show. And we one of the competitions was at Calliope Street, and they painted Nitro.
No way. Well, I'll have to look that up. That's so fun.
Yeah, so
awesome. Well, I'm so glad your creativity is embraced, that people trust you, that you're having a blast, that Oviedo is getting out there. It's such a great community. I miss Orlando so much. So next time I'm there, I'll have to take a trip to the mall. But in addition to this, you're also a blogger, an author, a speaker, and I also learned that you're a bullying prevention advocate. So I'd love to hear more about that, how you became passionate about this topic, and what we need to know about safety online, and especially for people working in social media where we sometimes can't escape the comments and we can get into these corners where it's very hard to disconnect. So what are your thoughts on all that?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, my resume is very odd when I which is great when I meet new people, and I'm like, okay, how much conversation do I want to have with them? And they're like, oh, what do you do? I just pick whatever is going to cause the least amount of conversation. But I mean, I fell into like bullying prevention. I fell into again by accident. I was when I was in school, I was a part of an educational theater group, and I really enjoyed it. And I think part of it was one of the members of the group at one point was like, Josh, you can't do this the rest of your life, right? And I was like, bet, we'll see about that.
Yeah.
And at that time, Facebook was because I'm old. Facebook was a brand new thing. There was a lot of security issues on it. And then when I graduated college, it was a time when we saw a lot of bullying related suicides linked to cyberbullying. And I was like, I want to do something with this. And I love non-traditional education. I was going to school to be a classroom teacher, and turns out I didn't enjoy that at all. But being able to travel around and talk to kids about online safety and bullying prevention was so much fun, because unfortunately the pandemic kind of slowed things down a little bit, and I don't get as many requests anymore. But it was so much fun to go and teach, and it's, of course, I make it as fun as humanly possible. But I fell into it and I loved it so much. And I think even as a brand, and I tell people this who I talk to who work in marketing, because we bear the brunt of a lot of bad stuff. Like I look at like this past week, I'm a huge fan of Royal Caribbean. That's who I sail with. I'm not getting paid to say this, but go book a cruise with them. And at one point I tweeted out, I was like, everyone better be nice to Royal Caribbean right now, because they're dealing with it. Like we're all dealing with a not so great situation. And it's and we get hateful comments too. Like I said, people in Oviedo either absolutely love the mall or they absolutely hate it, and I'm not quite sure why. And again, we get those like, oh, the mall is dead, they should just tear it down, no one goes there. And I've just stopped arguing with them because it's gotten to be so much, because it's constantly like, no, actually we're I'm actually very proud to say, I can say in this moment right here, we're 100% full. We're on a waiting list for businesses that want to come here. And it's a lot of times I say to people like, when's the last time they're here? Because what you're saying is not true. And yes, we don't have a lot of national brands, but if you look at malls everywhere, it's because of the way malls work. And a lot of people don't understand that. And that's like, I could go on a whole tangent about how malls work, because I find it fascinating. And I think a lot of it is, it's okay to step away. I remember I was working in marketing leading up to shutting down for the pandemic, and I was struggling really hard. And I reached out to people I knew in marketing. I'm like, what messaging are you using right now? I don't know what to say anymore. And I think we've got a really cool marketing community. There's a lot of people that like, I'm not good at like being like, hey, everybody notice me and be my friend. So I kind of watch everyone on Twitter from the wings, and I'm just like, okay, cool. But I think it's okay to step away. And it's so hard because I'm bad about shutting it off. I mean, if you look at like even the mall's Twitter, you'll notice a lot of our tweets are coming like after hours. I
Uh-huh.
may or may not be at home with a bottle of wine. So,
That's
which is
where,
actually
inspiration strikes. So it's fine.
exactly, and it's usually when I'm watching. I try to stay up on pop culture, so I'll be sitting like watching House of the Dragon or She Hulk, and I'm like, oh, the mall can comment on this. Let's go for it.
Yeah.
But it's okay to shut it off. I this past weekend because my director, so my boss, was stuck on a cruise ship all last week, so it fell on me to deal with everything.
Yeah, with
And
the hurricane. Yeah.
yeah, and so when she came back on Saturday and I left on Saturday on my cruise, I was like, I'm not looking at anything. I'm not checking emails. I'm not going to look at my Twitter. Like the mall is going to be quiet this weekend. And it's perfectly okay to do that. And it's okay. Like I have some days where I'm like, nope, I can't look at social media right now because I think, um, especially for anyone working in social media marketing, we bear the brunt of the entire world. So there was like, having to like watch everything that was happening at the beginning of the pandemic, looking at what was happening and being bombarded every day with Black Lives Matters. If there's a mass shooting, we're absorbing all of that, whether we like it or not, because we're on there. And
Yeah.
like I'm always looking at what's trending, and sometimes it's not that great. And I think taking care of our mental health is the most important. So when you've got people that are being mean, I think it was it Delta that if someone just was like, "We're working as hard as we can, just give me a
It
minute." And
was Delta, yeah. "Can you calm
I was
down?
like,
Give me a minute to work, please?" Yeah. Iconic.
yeah, and I'm like, you know what? I hope they got a raise. That like if that person got fired, somebody else should be in trouble.
Yeah.
And I think it's okay to, and I do it all the time, like remind people that there's a human behind the screen.
Mhm.
That we're out here doing the best we can, and we're all sometimes dealing with like, I mean, I feel like now my entire life has been an unprecedented situation, but
Yeah.
and it's okay to acknowledge that you're human and say, hey, you know what, I'm full. Like my cup is very full. I've run out of spoons. Just give me a second to
Yeah.
really focus in.
To breathe,
And when
yeah.
it comes to people being hateful online, it's I always try to see things from their perspective. I mean, I'm from Boston, so I'm very quick to anger. Um, but it's taking a second. You know what? This isn't about me, and especially I look at like this is a mall. I'm not saving lives. No one's going to
Mhm.
die. So it's okay to say this is something I'm not going to deal with right now. Or I'll say, hey, you know what? Send us an email. We can have this
Yeah.
conversation via email. I'll give you a number. We can have a phone conversation, but you don't get to talk to me like that. So,
Mhm. Yeah.
and
I
I think
actually
it's
have a
okay to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just reminded me, I actually have a somewhat of a mall story that goes with this. So I had this coworker who missed a deadline for a client to like get an ad placed in some publication. She had the worst day. She like left crying about it, and she decided to go to the mall because retail therapy is everything.
Of
And I
course.
think she may have even like, I don't know, she was at like a Macy's or something, was like at like the makeup counter and was like looking at makeup and was talking to the customer service associate there. And she said to her, she's like, Miss, she's like, rough day at work. Why have you been crying? She's like, yeah. And she goes, are you a doctor? Are you a nurse? Did someone die? And she's like, no. She's like, then it's okay. Everything's gonna be fine. I think we put a lot of this pressure on us, but yeah, like you said, at the end of the day, it's a mall. We're having fun. People will get over things. Like everything's
Yeah.
gonna be okay. The gravity of the situation is not, that crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah. So, yeah, I'm so happy that your creativity is being embraced, that you're able to have fun in your work. And again, you're making me smile. I hope more people are
Good.
following you. And I will be keeping up with your shenanigans on Twitter and all the platforms. I hope to come back and visit the mall. Like I said, it's been about 10 or 11 years since I've been. So I'd love to see what it looks like now and also support some small businesses. So
Yeah. Oh, it's time to come back for sure.
absolutely, absolutely. So, needless to say, I'm a huge fan of your work. I think it's just
Thank
refreshingly
you.
creative and witty, and I'm so glad that we've crossed paths here. But any final words of wisdom, maybe even for people who work for smaller businesses, or we get these roles in social media and we think we have to work for this big account, and this big account is always the goal, or this big brand, but you're having a blast working for a smaller local company and you're fulfilled. So any thoughts on that, or words of wisdom in general?
I mean, in general, it's have fun. It's people
Yeah.
can tell, like people can tell when you're trying to sell them something. And if again, go and look at the transcenders out there, the transcender marketing, and make up your own rules. There's like I've sat and read books about marketing and social media marketing, all that stuff, and I've Googled like the hot tips and stuff. At the end of the day, if you're genuine and showing people how much fun that you're having and how much fun they can have with you depending on what your product is, I think that's the way to do it. If you're just constantly like, you need to buy this, you need to buy this, you need to buy this, that's boring.
Yeah.
That's think about what catches your attention, because I mean, we're all bombarded with ads every single day. What out there is actually attractive to you, and and even if it's just making somebody smile in passing, not everything has to be a sales grab.
Right.
um, I think that's always the way, and I think we've started to look at a little bit more like how can we show like behind the scenes of how a mall works. And I'm super nosy, so I love to know how things work. I've worked on movie sets where I've gotten in trouble for wandering off and not being where I'm supposed to be, because I'm like, but hold on, this is more interesting than being on camera. Um, and I mean, just it's keep that passion. If you find yourself losing that passion, either find a way to refill that creative cup, or it's okay to move on from stuff too. Don't hold on to
Yeah.
something that makes you miserable, and I'm still learning that. So uh, don't use me as your role model, please.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just keep having fun, and that's, I mean, it's again, tweet like nobody's watching. And I mean, don't, if it doesn't get a like, that's fine. Or even if it gets one like, you made one person's day. You
Yeah.
had one person had a good time because of you. And I think it's just that. And I it's unfortunate that again, because I don't have as much oversight as other people might, that I get away with murder sometimes. Um and fight for what you think is worth fighting for. Because there are people that just like there's the big bosses that just don't get what social media is.
Yeah.
And it's okay to fight for it, and do that. So it's just,
Well
again,
said.
just have fun. Please just keep having fun.
Yeah. And when you're having fun in your job, I mean, your audience is going to have fun too. It's such a win-win. It's not fun for you or your customer to be so sales oriented and rigid all the time. So yeah, I think it works. It works both ways. I think that's great. Great advice.
Yeah.
Well,
When in doubt, hire a bunch of interns, give them a
yes,
Ouija board. Chaos will ensue.
works every time. Yes. Pro tip. Pro
Yeah,
tip. Love it. Thank you, Josh. Thank you so much for coming on today, and also for going
absolutely.
live with me. This has been so fun.
Well, it got me to kind of clean. There's stacks of papers just off camera and just below the desk, and so
Okay.
I'm gonna have to deal with those. But it'll get me to actually clean this office for
Looks
once.
good. Love all the personality in the cube too. So
Yeah, I wish I could show you everything, because this was my first job where I've had just my own actual space, and I'm like,
yeah.
oh, I'm gonna make it so much. And people walk in, they're like, does a 5-year-old work here? Yes, yes, he does.
Yes. Yes. Got to keep anything to keep the inspiration and creativity going. So don't worry
Exactly.
though. I'm going to come visit. I'll keep you posted. I would love to get
Perfect.
your own tour of the mall. So thanks so much. You had a,
Absolutely.
so talk soon. Bye.
Yep. Have a good one.
You too.